Hello everyone, my name is Maurice and we are back, and in this video we are going to start with vectors and matrices. So the first question coming to your mind is probably, okay, what is a vector in the first place? Basically a vector is a matrix with only one dimension. So it can be a row or a column vector. Let's see how a vector looks like in Matlab so we can get a better picture of it. First we have to create a vector and we're going to start with a row vector. Because we are trying something out, we are not going to use the editor right away. Instead, we are using the command window. We want to store the vector, so a variable name is necessary. In this case, I'm going to call it row vector underscore 1. And this vector is supposed to include several numbers. To create a vector, you basically only need to know that the vector is limited by square brackets. And within those brackets we can use spaces or commas as delimiters. So row vector underscore 1 equals, because we want to assign a value to row vector 1. And 1 equals sign is always an assignment in Matlab. Next we need the first square bracket. To create it we can press the Alt Graph key and 8. In case you don't have this key, simply press Ctrl Alt plus 8. Now we have to decide which delimiter we actually want to use. Obviously this is up to you and there is no difference in the result. We are going to start with commas as delimiter. So we separate each number with a comma and afterwards we are going to close the vector with another square bracket. This time we press the Alt Graph key plus 9. Because we would like to see the output, we are not going to use a semicolon. Pressing enter creates now our row vector. Okay, let's briefly do the same with spaces as delimiter, so you know both ways. We are going to call our second vector row vector underscore 2. And this one is supposed to include 6, 7, 8 and 9. It is the same as before, the only difference is the delimiter. As you can see here, both ways work perfectly fine. The difference between creating a row vector and a column vector is the delimiter we are using. This time we can use a semicolon as a delimiter or a new paragraph. So this time we write column vector underscore 1 equals square bracket 1 semicolon, 2 semicolon, 3 semicolon, 4 semicolon, 5 semicolon, and we close it with a square bracket. And as you can see, this time we don't get a row as a result, but a column. I mentioned before that we can also use a paragraph as the delimiter. First of all, how do you even start a new paragraph in the command window? Usually you use the enter key in a document. But in the command window, enter executes the command. Instead you have to press shift and enter. So we type in column vector underscore 2 equals 6, 7, 8, 9. And we close it with a square bracket. And as you can see, this way takes a lot of space and in most cases it just makes no sense. To be consistent, I'm going to use commas as row delimiters and semicolons as column delimiters from now on. Okay, to summarize, you use square brackets around your vector and you use commas and semicolons for rows and columns respectively. As you can see in a vector, you always only have one dimension, which is a row or a column. The big difference of a matrix is that you have two dimensions, so rows and columns. To create a matrix, you also use square brackets and basically the same delimiters for rows and columns. So say we want to create a matrix which includes 1, 2, 3 in the first row and 4, 5, 6 in the second row and 7, 8, 9 in the last row. You write it as follows: matrix underscore 1 equals square bracket 1, 2, 3 semicolon 4, 5, 6 semicolon 7, 8, 9 and close it with a square bracket. So each time you want to get to the next row, which means one column down, you use a semicolon and within the row you simply use commas. We just created a 3 by 3 matrix, but pay attention, the dimensions of a matrix have to be consistent, which means you cannot do something like this. Matrix underscore 2 equals square bracket 1, 2 semicolon 3, 4, 5 semicolon 6, 7 square bracket. Because the second row has 3 columns, Matlab will give you an error message. Dimensions of matrices being concatenated are not consistent. To have a closer look at a matrix, we can actually use the workspace to get into the variable view by double-clicking the variable. A new window opens which shows you a more detailed overview of the stored values. We are going to use this overview later. Note that you can dock or undock this window, again by pressing either the arrow at the top right corner or by using the hotkeys.